I'm with Reggie Parks, who is a former professional wrestler. Actually, is known as a shooter, one of the legitimate professional wrestlers, and he was also involved in the making of many titles. So for those that aren't familiar with you, do you want to tell us a bit about your career?
Well, it started a belt-making career in 1960, and since then I've had some real good friends, and they've set me up with the name of the King of Belts, and it's kind of stuck with me, and people know me by that. And I retired from wrestling, let's see, about 1982. Right now I'm 24 years old. So anyway, we come up here every year and see the boys and see a lot of guys, the ones that are still around, and a lot of them aren't anymore, but whoever I come and see, everybody's happy to see me, and I'm happy to see them.
What's the key to making a good quality title?
The belt business, I guess you'd call it trial and error. I started making those things in 1962 in Omaha, Nebraska, when I was part of the tag team champions there, and the promoter there had this huge trophy. You couldn't put it in the car, you'd have to take it apart and haul it around. It was really a pain. So he said, Joe, we got to make a couple of belts here in place of this thing you got here. So he said, well, if you should make something that's presentable, we'll try and use it. So my belt was presentable, and from there they went to Minnesota and to Canada. Dick Byers, the Destroyer, took a belt to Japan, and I did a lot of business with Japan, making belts in different countries, like all over Europe. And, you name it. Japan was a pretty good business partner there for quite a while, and so I had the whole market cornered here when I first started. And now, since the Chinese got their hands on my belts, and they've made a lot of belts with my design, so we've got some lawyers and we charged them for you know what, so they have to pay me a little bit for them now. But that's a good thing, and keep me out of the poorhouse when I retire.
And you were known as being a very legitimate professional wrestler. What was your amateur wrestling background?
I did 4 years of it. I started out about 13, 14 years old until I was about 16, 17, and at that age I had my first professional, if you call it that, a bunch of local guys up there in Canada putting some bouts together, and I remember making $3.50 for my first fight. And of course they were, the tickets then were like 50 cents a piece. It was just a small crowd, but it was something. Got my foot in the door there. Then I ended up on a carnival taking on all comers, because I had a good amateur background. I could handle some of these guys. So it got a little, once in a while, going up through British Columbia up there in Canada, and get out these lumberjacks, strong as a bull, but they'd run out of gas in about 2 minutes, so they, could handle them do whatever you want with them. So, and I learned more in that carnival than I think I did all the time I went to school. It's a really educational thing. Of course, I probably learned all the wrong things, but that was okay.
And who's your favorite opponent over the years?
Well, after 50 years in the business, I've run across a lot of guys. Well, opponents, we would say, like drawing power for a bad guy would be Mad Do Vachon, and he was one of the better ones. And let's see who else. Let's see. Oh, well, I've been in the ring with all of them. I got in the ring 2 or 3 times with Lou Thesz. And I'll tell you a funny story. 1960, I wrestled him here in Las Vegas. And the newspaper came out in the clipping that I beat Lou Thesz 2 straight falls. And nobody in the history did that. An obvious mistake. And if anybody knows where I could find the copy of that newspaper, I'd sure like to have it.
Now, I'm going to guess he didn't mess with you too much in the ring, because I heard that Lou Thesz sometimes could be a little rough in there.
Yes. He was one of the best, and his talent and know-how, and he was like world champion when he was like 18, 19 years old. And he was, yeah, I mean, you look at the years of that guy compared to mine. He was really, I mean, he was something else. You know, I got in the ring with him. He was like, he could put holds on himself, and you'd know how the hell did that happen? You know,
Who do you think would have won in a legitimate fight between Thesz and Vachon? Because those are 2 of the toughest ever.
Oh, well, yeah, you know Lou's credentials. Mad Dog was in the '48 Olympics, and so he had a good background, and he was just a wrestler. He could fight, and he'd rather fight than eat and sleep. And I tell you I got a lot of stories about him. I had him in the ring many times. We drew some money in the Midwest. He'd be out there a bunch, and he'd get you in the corner and holler at you, "Get up and fight or I'll kill you." And he would do it too. He'd have people sitting ringside. They'd holler at him, yell at him, and they'd jump out of the ring, and they'd just go scared to death just by him being there.
Is there any truth that he used to actually rip people's eyes out in bar fights?
I was there where that happened. Yep, in the town of Rimouski, Quebec. I was there, and he had a partner. His name was Rapapapatsky. Real name was John Smith. So, anyway, the story goes, after the matches, they went to this restaurant to have something to eat. And the two guys, local guys there, wanted to, they were determined they were going to mess with him. And one was the mayor of the town's son, and he was kind of a jackass that would, everybody was scared of him. Nobody would say anything to him. You know, if you mess with the mayor, you know how that goes. So these guys are going, well, Mad Dog says to the waitress, "Could you please have these boys get away from us? We're trying to eat." And they kept, you know, whatever they were doing there. So finally they finished eating, and then them guys are out there getting face to face almost. So Mad Dog, that's in the wrestling hall, puts the guy in the booth, and beats the tar out of him, and out come the eye. And the other guy, Patsky, had the other guy in the booth, and they just got beat to death. The one guy with the eye he was in the hospital for 3 months. Nobody said a word. The whole town was so damn happy that was happening. Sir.
Alexis Smirnoff. I had one of my first matches with you in Kansas City.
That was
you were a shooter.
2 or 3 years ago.
Oh yes, 2 to 3 years ago.
At
you
least.
know, and everybody would try to scare me. You know, they says Reggie Parks is going to shoot with you, but you would turn out to be a good worker.
I was a little stiff. I'm still
a
a
little bit stiff. Yeah, but you were a good worker. And this is going back years ago.
Oh, geez, when
you think about it,
this was when I was in
1970. 1970.
Could be about that. 70. because I come into Omaha in
Omaha,
1960.
Nebraska, yeah.
But they were asking me about my belts, so I said, well, that's when I made those 2 belts for our tag team.
Yeah, you still do belts?
Yeah, well, my engraver's kind of gone out of business, but we're still doing them.
Okay, I'm gonna have your phone number before I go.
Well, I'll give you the guy who handles all my business now. His name is Rico. Rico, and Dave Milliken, of course. I passed the torch to him, and I don't do too much. I'm doing re-leathering now mostly.
Really?
Guys they come with those Chinese belts. You take them all apart and do a replica leather, replica of my replica.
Really?
So
now it's made in China.
And a lot of that stuff's made in China now. You see, we made right here in Las Vegas, the head of UFC. We made I made their belts for like 5-6 years.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll end it at that. If you guys want to strike a pose together to grab a shot.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.